think, wow, it does a lot. I'm impressed with how much it does. It's like, for me, it's like a GR55. If I was going to liken it to some piece of gear, the closest piece of gear I could liken it to is a GR55. But with this, you can just plug your guitar straight in. You don't need the MIDI contraption either in or on your guitar. But it does such an incredible, elaborate amount of sounds that no matter what I said about their looks, I've got to give them credit where it's due. And sonically, it's got a lot of colors, a lot of tones. That's just the presets. Even if you just flick through the presets, you'll see a huge array of sounds. Like the GR55, I keep on likening it to the GR55 because the GR55 had so many sounds in it. It was nuts. It had incredible editability. But also on the GR55, you can get lost really easy because if you start burying yourself deep into the sounds and deep editing, you can get really lost. Hey, I could get lost on a GT100 if I go deeply into editing it, or a Pod 500 I could get lost in too if I do deep editing. So it does have the deep editing risk factors of getting lost. But no, I think they did a wonderful job on the sounds. I think the sound quality is excellent. I think the musicality of the weird sounds is phenomenal. They are very weird, but they're always musical. Of course, if you edit it not so favorably, you can get unmusical sounds out of it too. But like I said, credit where it's due. It's an incredible pedal. I can see why a lot of people use it, have it on their boards, would suit synthesizers really well. I'm not like an ambient player, so I'm just trying to survive the motions of Sandy's hand gestures there. But if you're an ambient player, you could really lap it up. And if you're not an ambient player, you could still lap it up, because I felt like I still got some good sounds out of it. Not really strictly within our genre, but you could even play fast, and if you're on time, if you're twice the speed or 4 times the speed or whatever, it can still sync. So you can still be busy, because I don't feel like it doesn't really get muddy, which is interesting. It does a lot of stuff, but of course anything can get muddy, but it doesn't have a particular tendency of getting muddy, which is really impressive. And there's still a crispness and a clarity. I could hear things like the rainbow machine in it. I could hear things like really cool envelope followers with sequences in them. I could hear really beautiful flute sounds. There was a flute sound I noticed because it said flute, and I thought that sounds fluty, and it did. It was a flute indeed. So that's just the sounds when I was quickly looking down. But yeah, a massive array of sounds, some cool bass sounds. I really was enjoying the bass stuff, and it tracked really well. It was really fast. You can play super fast and it'll still follow you. I didn't hear any latency at all. But you'd have to ask Yingy Malmsteen if it's got latency, because you'd have to be really fast. I think he should be like a tester for latency, because he's just so fast. Yeah, Yingy, just potential job option for you, mate. But anyway, I love it for what it is. I think what they did, they achieved it. It's wonderful. I think I give it a 10 out of 10, which I don't usually give pedals a marking, but what the hell, I'll start. I'll give it a 10 out of 10. Now, I don't know, we always seem to have it on with a DS9, did we?
On and off.
On and off. It didn't suffer without the DS9, which is cool. The other day we were demoing something. Oh, it was the Cathedral. It seemed to suffer from the lack of the distortion pushing it. This pedal doesn't suffer from a lack of distortion, but it definitely accommodates a distortion really well. And it keeps the distortion tight and focused, but yet still saturated. So the way it interacts with distortion is very, very impressive. Usually these sorts of multi-effects units don't interact with distortions that well. They either let them sag and kind of flood all over the place, or they make them sound skinny and weak. But this one, the way it laps up the DS9 is fantastic. And the DS9 is not a particularly compatible pedal for multi-effects units. So that's evidence. The proof is in the pudding. If it can really interact with the DS9, then it can probably interact really well with any distortion pedal. I reckon it could even go a really cheap one. It sound really awesome. Like you could put a black coffee down electro in there and you could still really do some interesting stuff. Yeah. I wasn't maneuvering the dials because I don't have the intellect for that. No, I was playing. So I don't know about the panel. Sandy, you have to say something about the panel, about how how it is to edit. I don't know that side. I'm just saying sonically.
I think, like I said before, it's really easy to get lost once you left preset mode. You could really get lost in the woods quite quickly. And it's nice to be able to go back to the presets. One thing I found frustrating about the bank modes is that you'd press the very right button to go into bank mode, hold it down for 2 seconds, and then you could toggle between the 2 different foot switches. But I didn't see if there was a way to go back. So if you toggled ahead too far, I'm not sure, but it looked like you had to go through all of the banks, all 50 of them, to get back to where you were.
I think this one has options for additional control of foot switches, which you can program for specific things. Like, I don't know, I think someone someone very smart was showing it on the internet, and they had it programmed with an additional controller. I watched that ages ago, and that made the switchability easy.
Well, it's got MIDI connectability.
Yeah, so MIDI, yeah, if you connect it through MIDI, maybe you could get around the switching. But I mean, they had it's not a very big pedal, and given all the sounds you have in it, you're only going to have so much, you almost tend to forgive them for any kind of a oversight with convenience, because you get so much in it that you can forgive that, you know.
You could see as well, once you really kind of mastered what all the different knobs do, like the XY knobs and those sort of things, once you knew, okay, you've got it on a preset and it's got reverb or it's got delay and how to manipulate them, you could see how you could get into still staying on track, but tweakability of it without getting too muddy, playing with your times of your delays and the feedback and all that kind of thing.
What would prevent you from getting muddy?
Like if you stayed on your patch, like if you go to kind of your patch and then you kind of start tweaking and becoming familiar with that patch.
Yeah. That's what I did on any machine that I had that was compass, like a GR55. I went to a patch and then I just tweaked what I wanted rather than starting from scratch. It's easier to work on a patch that's closest to what you want and then edit it out. And then once you learn how your favorite patches are constructed, you can emulate them. But a good start is just going to the patch and just tweaking slight things in that patch. Is it worth the money? Yeah, I think it probably is. I imagine that to put all those components in there and get that kind of audio quality and sound diversity and to ram all those effects in a pedal like that, and it seems like a very well built chassis, I do think it's actually worth the money. I think it's a lot of money, but I think it's probably worth it. If they made it pretty, I'd be just gloating about it right now. But like I said, it's not really for what I kind of do. But wow, I think it's cool. I think it's really cool. I think if you were trying to form a band like what's that band? King Crimson. If you want to do a King Crimson type band, you need this pedal. I could hear a lot of King Crimson sounds in there, and obviously they were a very effects-based group. But they were very competent as well. They could really play. For progressive stuff, I can hear it being used even for metal, frankly, because the pitch shifters track so well and so fast, and they're so tight and together, and it interacts so well with distortion. You could even use it for metal, jazz, progressive jazz. I don't think you could really use it for blues. I don't think it's really appropriate. But heaps of styles of music. Wonderful. Yeah, I think I give it a 10 out of 10. I think they did a great job on it, and I'm very impressed with it.
The other thing I would add is that because it's got line level in and out, it's great for synthesizers and keyboards.
Yeah. I always thought these things were overhyped. I thought, yeah, all right, but maybe not worth that much money. But I think it is worth the money.
Because also it had quite an effective fuzz in there as well. So if it's got reverb, delay, fuzz.
I personally think that fuzz is the one thing that you can't emulate. Like, I think fuzz has to be analog, because when it's a digital fuzz, it just doesn't seem to work. It can work for other things. Like a digital fuzz can be cool for something different, but it wouldn't replace an analog fuzz sound. And I'm a big believer in digital stuff and emulations and simulations, all that stuff. But I think fuzz is an effect that I just don't think it's they haven't done it yet. Maybe they'll do it one day. But that fuzz is usable for other things like bassy sounds, and you could actually do funk with it really quite well. The envelopes were very high quality, really great envelopes, tracked wonderfully, musical, snappy, quacky. You could pull out heaps of different envelope followers just out of that pedal alone. Yeah, it's great. It's cool.